Um, Welcome to the Aesthetic Layer. I'm Marcia Slocum, and this is a show built on a simple idea that the beauty and health industries are full of people doing extraordinary, often invisible work, and that we all get to better when we bring those people together and share what they've learned. Every episode, I sit down with someone shaping how we look, how we feel, and how we experience the spaces and services built around well being. And lately, that conversation keeps circling back to one thing: how artificial intelligence is reshaping all of it, what it threatens, what it unlocks, and what stays irreplaceably human. My guest today knows that intersection well. Herb Lipsman started out as a tennis pro coaching junior players, where he learned a lesson that's shaped everything since: build on people's strengths, and the confidence takes care of itself. He carried that into decades of long career leading high-end health clubs, athletic clubs, country clubs, and luxury resorts, the kind of places where pristine isn't a bonus, it's a baseline. Today, he leads Sozo Clubs, consults across the hospitality and wellness world, and is the author of Caring, the sequel. He's also been an early vocal voice on what AI means for this industry, not as a threat to fear, but as a tool to embrace. He notices the smallest details without ever losing the big picture, which is the whole game when it comes to the aesthetic layer. Herb, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
Yeah. So, Herb, tell me, I want to hear about your journey. I want to hear about how you got to where you are today.
Well, I've been doing this a long time. I'm one of the old guys now. I used to think I was one of the young up and comers, but that's in the past. I got into it by default. I was a tennis pro at an indoor club in the Midwest in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and the manager got fired, and they offered me the job to manage the club, and the rest is history. I ended up deciding I loved managing health clubs, and at that time it was a racket club. And as the industry went through all of its evolution over several decades, it went from tennis to racquetball to fitness and spa, and then ultimately to these big multi-purpose facilities. And I was along for the whole ride.
That sounds amazing. You've seen this industry really evolve, really blossom. I remember the first gym that I ever went to, that's all it was. It was just a gym. And now, the gym that's about a mile from my house, they have movies. And I think they too are trying to bring people together. But I want to hear about your biggest goal for this industry.
The industry, last year's statistic was, according to Health and Fitness Association, that 26% of the population currently belonged to a health club or gym, which meant that 74% had opted out. And interestingly enough, that's the highest penetration rate the industry's ever had. After, at least, for me, it's been more than 4 decades. So after 40, 50 years of evolving, we still, as an industry, have pretty much failed at attracting the lion's share of the population. And, I'm on the ground. I've served myself, I've actively served tens of thousands of members over those years. And so if you're a student of the business that you're in, then you pay attention to what you see and hear. And what I would tell you is that 74, 75% of the population that doesn't choose to go to a health club or gym, they're opting out because they don't feel like they fit in. That's not for me. They look in the window and they see hard bodies, and they see crazy equipment that scares them, and they see people doing group exercise classes, and everybody looks like they know what they're doing, and they see when they go in and kind of stick their toe in the water, they get toured and they get sold, and they feel like they're being sold, and so then that causes them to have a knee-jerk reaction of, I'm not ready for this. And then there's a big chunk of those folks that they they're embarrassed of themselves. You know, they don't feel like they look the part. They're intimidated by not knowing what they're doing, and they've heard lots of horror stories. There's just so many people over the years that have had bad experiences with health clubs that the industry's gotten a black eye, not deservedly so necessarily, but there's been enough bad actors in the business over the years that took people's money and then didn't provide the products and services they promised. So we feel like that we know, my two co-founders and I, who've been friends in the business for 40 some years, all in different elements of the health club and spa industry, we feel like that we can create a new lane that speaks to that person who hasn't felt comfortable before, and find ways to get them in the door and make them comfortable first, and not try to ram fitness down their throat. You know, you come here to lose weight and get in shape, and we're gonna help you do that. We're gonna get you a personal trainer. We're gonna get you classes and programs, and you're gonna pay us every month, and everyone will live happily ever after. And we know that's not the case. And so our vision is to create this incredible third place that people go to be with their friends and make new friends while engaging in fun, healthy activities. Things like pickleball, things like group exercise, things like watching a show. We're going to introduce performing arts theaters in our clubs, where people will come for a theatrical performance, or to hear a local musician or a comedy act or a TED Talk, something of that nature. And while they're there, even though they may not like to exercise, they're going to be surrounded by Sozo and all the things that we do, and hopefully some of that may cause them to want to give it a try.
That sounds really amazing. It sounds really engaging. And, I'm excited to see what happens, and I'll certainly be following the Sozo Club story. Herb, tell me, 74% of the population is huge. How do you plan on engaging all of the different demographics that are out there? People who are embarrassed, people who don't feel like they belong, people who are scared of the equipment or scared of working out or just aren't motivated, people that are maybe elderly, people who might not be able to afford it. How do you plan on engaging with all of those different demographics?
It starts with the one. So if Marcia comes to our club, and she's going to have a unique life story, completely different than any other member in the club. You're going to have you grew up in a certain place. You went to a certain school. You participated in activities that were different than others. You have a different profession. You have a different family. You have different values, and all of those things go into making up who you are. And the industry has never even attempted to get to know that individual member. In most companies have a sort of a off-the-shelf standard procedure for when the prospect comes in the door. They give them a tour, they show them all the features of the club, they sit down with them at a desk and they go over the pricing, they sign them up, they give them their membership card, or they get them set up with their handheld to be able to check in, and then you're on your own. And they might even assign you a personal trainer whose job it is to talk you into paying for personal training services. But if you don't do that, then you're invisible. And I write on LinkedIn pretty regularly, and I wrote an article not too long ago called "The Invisible Member." And the invisible member is that person who goes through that procedure that I just described, and then they become a member and they pay their dues every month, and they're never seen or heard. They're just a body that's coming and going. I won't mention the name of the club, but I'm a member of a club currently that I've been at for 6 months, and no one in the club that works there knows my name or knows anything about me other than the trainer they assigned to me at the beginning for a few sessions, and then the person that I recently signed up with to provide some specialty dynamic stretch training. Other than that, I'm invisible. They have no idea who I am, and they're one of the best. This is a leading organization, and I'm not mentioning the name, but they're all like this. I mean, honestly, the whole industry's like this. Now the boutiques are different because you're in a much more intimate setting with a studio for Pilates or for a bar or things like that, or a Soul Cycle. And so in those cases, the instructor gets to know their class participants pretty intimately. But even then, it's not that same thing as if you really genuinely cared about the person. And so we think that if we create a culture where everyone on our staff that works for us is genuinely curious about people, they genuinely want to help people, and then we train them on all of the emotional intelligence type courses so that they become better at building rapport and getting to know people. And then we help them with tools that will allow them to introduce members to one another that have similar interests and backgrounds, that we're going to just create this gosh, what's the right word for it? It's almost like a quilt of members, and everybody's connected.
I want to touch on something because I also belong to a gym. I will not mention the name of the gym on this podcast, but I showed up and I signed up. I worked with a manager for a day, and I had one training session with him, and he seemed lovely, and he told me, he was like very encouraging, very engaging, said, "Hey, Marcia, every time you come into the gym, give me a fist bump." I think I've seen him one or two other times. I do go in to see my trainer once a week, and then I usually go one or two other days out of the week to work out. I don't, unless I see my trainer, nobody else there knows my name.
Yeah.
I did get an automated text message from the management asking how things were going and really checking up on my gym trainer more so than checking in on me. But, I do think that it's a real opportunity. I've been a lifelong gym goer. I know how to use all of the equipment. Every once in a while, if I get out of it, like, it's really nice to have a routine or have somebody put together a workout. But it would also be, especially for me, because I just moved to Salt Lake City, really sandy Utah. It would be amazing for me because I don't know anybody. So,
Yep.
and you and I have had a conversation before, Herb, where we talked about the importance of building a community for longevity.
Yep. Yep. Yeah,
Yeah.
I will tell you, we all know of the things that are really obvious about living longer and better. You need to keep moving, you need to exercise, you need to eat right, you need to get your proper nutrition, you need to manage your stress. All those things that we all, many of us don't practice, but we know we're supposed to, right? But I will tell you, after 40 plus years in this business and watching real people and how they live their lives, the ones who lived the best, the longest, were the ones that had a social network. They had either close friends or loved ones that they cared about enough that it made them want to get out of bed in the morning.
Hmm.
And those people, they could be smokers and drinkers and do all these things you're not supposed to do, but they live to be 100 because they have this purpose, and the purpose is their people. And so what we think, my partners and I think, is that if we can create that, we can gain their trust, and we can help them navigate through all of the incredible amount of wellness and longevity information that's coming at us right now. And you don't even, it's overwhelming for most people. And unless you're a gym rat like I am, and you consume all that stuff, and you can kind of know how to pick and choose what you want to respond to. But for most people, they're not like that, and so it's just overwhelming, and it's information overload. So we think if we can build a community where they feel seen, heard, cared for, then we can spoon feed them the wellness and longevity stuff, and they'll take it.
Mm.
And that's, it's a theory right now. It's a theory, but I've seen it work. I mean, I've managed clubs where I took that approach, and I could see how people, the club was a really important part of their life because of those relationships.
I think that's amazing. I've already said it. I'm definitely going to follow Sozo Clubs as a I think we talked about this. I'm educated as a social scientist. So when you talk to me about theory and there's something that you can measure, I'm all about it. Something else that I've noticed as a social scientist over the past probably 6 or 7 years is, and I think, COVID kind of exacerbated this. One, AI and technology is leaps and bounds ahead of where it was 6 or 7 years ago, but also, people are much more secluded in their own bubbles. And so I was wondering how you guys were planning on kind of maintaining that balance between, technology and AI and how you're leveraging it to either grow the company or expand your footprint, engage with your clients, but also maintaining that personal, that human touch.
You know, not that long ago, running a big athletic club like I'm used to, where you have all the different activities. You've got fitness and group exercise and aquatics and racket sports and now pickleball. All those things used to be the managers of each department would spend, not intentionally, they'd be forced to spend the lion's share of their time in front of a computer screen. So if you were the head of group exercise, you were planning the schedules, you were lining up the instructors, you were handling payroll, you were making sure people's certifications. You spend all your time in front of your computer screen, and occasionally you have meetings with your staff, maybe one-on-ones and things like that. But you very rarely are out amongst the customer, amongst the members. And it should be just the opposite of that. And what I think AI is going to do for us is it's going to eliminate 80 to 90% of the administrative tasks. If you set your systems up correctly, that stuff's all happening by itself. You don't have to do it anymore. And so now if you're the group exercise instructor director, you can go to each class and watch. You can observe, you can participate, you can talk to members, you can coach your team, all those things. And that applies to virtually every part of the club. And so, at least in our world, we think, we're intent on having our leaders in the club spending the lion's share of their time with the staff and with the members, not in an office in front of a computer screen. And that's what I think that technology will do. If you use it correctly, it's an invisible. It's almost like electricity. It's the infrastructure that's allowing you to be better at what you do, as opposed to eliminating what you have. The positions. You're not in our clubs. You're not going to be cutting back on the number of people working. It's just they're going to be doing something different than they did before, which is better.
I love that so much. I recently transitioned careers. I've worked in the government contracting space for 20 years, State Department, Department of War, USAID, and a couple other agencies. And, I led the digital transformation of the organization that I just left so that I can help small and medium-sized companies engage and leverage AI to do exactly that, right? So with technology, you have this really amazing opportunity to grow and scale like never before, but then you lose that human touch. And so trust has become so much more important. And how do you build that trust if you're doing all of these administrative tasks and like pushing AI? But if you're absolutely right. If you set up the systems correctly, if you vet your AI properly and you have AI that actually works for you, because not all AI is created equal, it frees up and stakeholders in organizations to go and build that trust and engage with other humans.
Yep. Yep.
So I mean, I love that. Herb, what advice do you have for managers, other individuals who maybe aspire to own health clubs or to work in health clubs? What message do you have for them?
You know, I'll speak to the AI piece. Nowadays, as a manager in any industry, really, you have all of the world's expertise at your service, at your beck and call, all of it. I mean, like everybody who's ever written anything or spoken about any topic is at your fingertips in an instant. And all you got to do is ask. You have to, they talk about the word prompt. What it basically means is you have to tell the AI agent that you're talking to very specifically what you're looking for, but then you can get whatever information you have. I think I shared with you when we talked last week. I've been consuming just a huge amount of books about startups and about raising capital and about management, leadership, and that sort of thing over the past couple of years, in anticipation of opening our first Sozo Club. And one of the books I came across was one called The $1 Trillion Coach. And the $1 Trillion Coach was a man named Bill Campbell, who was a football player and then a football coach. And I believe it was Columbia University that he played for and then he became the coach of. And he never had a winning season at Columbia as a coach, but he had a tremendous reputation for raising good young men. Like his coaching led lots of people to have successful careers outside of football after they graduated. And one of those players became a CEO of a Silicon Valley company and asked Coach Campbell to come out and help him with his leadership team. And I'm sure I'm not getting all the facts perfect, but basically he moved to California and he ended up becoming an executive coach out in Silicon Valley. And he had amongst his clients Steve Jobs from Apple and Eric Schmidt from Google and Sheryl Sandberg from Facebook. And all of them raved about how much he meant to them, to their success as their executive coach. And all he was doing was listening and then reading back to them what they were telling him in a way that would cause them to reflect and go, okay, now I know what to do. He was that type of a leader. And so applying this to AI, when I read the book, I went in and I said, well, shoot, I want a coach like Bill Campbell. Why should I settle? Why don't I have the best? So I went into my AI agent and I said, I want you to channel Coach Bill Campbell for me, and here's what I'm doing in my role. Tell me give me some advice. And instantly, like in seconds, I had pages, multiple pages of coaching advice specific to my situation. So then I started doing it weekly. Like every Friday, I would be in my car and I would be talking to my phone, telling it, okay, Coach Campbell, here's what I accomplished this week. These are the challenges I faced. Here's what's coming up next week. Give me some advice. And I would just get these great coaching topics that I was able to instantly apply to what I was doing. And you can do that with virtually any person who's got a public persona that's got has spoken and written and all that kind of thing. And so I have a gentleman who's deceased now that was a leader in the financial side of the health club industry for decades. Happened to be a good friend of mine, and he was kind of like a mentor to me. And when he passed away, I just started. I was really angry that he's gone because I was gonna lean on him when I was starting Sozo, but I still do. I go in and I say, okay, what would Rick do? Rick, with this set of circumstances, what would you tell me? And it comes back and it's his voice basically. And so one of the things that people that are in any kind of a leadership position can do is think of the people they admire and that they know are experts in their field, and they can channel those people using AI. And you can do the same thing with any of your challenges. Like I'm getting ready. We're going to have a major construction project in front of us. I went to my AI just this morning and I said, okay, here's what's coming. I want to take advantage of AI in my design and development of this first club. What do you recommend as an expert in the construction industry? And I've got an incredible outline that I'm already working off of.
That sounds amazing. So I love coincidences. I'm constantly looking for them. Um, I am actually wearing a Columbia University
I saw
sweatshirt. That
that.
is my
Yeah.
alma mater. So
You remember
I can
hearing of him?
appreciate having a coach that studied there, coached there. Um, that's really exciting. And when do you guys plan on opening your first club?
We're 2 years out, so we
Okay.
just went under contract on the land, and so we have probably about 6 months, maybe 6 to 8 months of design work with our architect, and then we expect to be under construction sometime in the early part of next year and be open in 2028.
How exciting.
And we do plan to scale this. So our vision is to have 50 of these clubs in 10 years from now.
Hopefully one in each state. Not
Pardon
too
me?
far from me in Salt Lake
There we go.
City.
Sure.
I'll become a member. Um, Herb, this was a really great conversation for me. I'm really excited to see Sozo Club get stood up, to see how you guys evolve and adapt with the changing tide of AI and technology, because in another year and a half, we're going to have AGI. So, you're going to have artificial intelligence that's creating, teaching, and training artificial intelligence. But also, it is really important to bring it back to the human perspective and the human endeavor, because at the end of the day, we are what matters on this planet, right? And so enhancing our experiences through relationships, I think, is something that you should be really proud of. And so I'm very excited to see. Um, and we'll have to be in touch again before you guys cut the ribbon and open up.
That'd be great.
And
By the way, you didn't
yeah,
ask me, but the word sozo is a Greek word that means to heal, make whole, or thrive.
I did look that up actually. That's probably why I didn't ask, but I should have asked for my listeners. So yeah, I think that is incredibly apropos, and I can't wait to see it like all over the place.
That's great.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Herb. Again, I'm Marcia Slocum. This is the Aesthetic Layer. Thank you for listening to us, and we'll catch you guys next time.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.